you shovel it on to your sales guy, right? You're like, okay, I've got a sales guy. He's going to do sales and he's going to do customer success and he's going to do some marketing too. Well, those are three very distinct roles. And they're also and all three of them are very important. So to have them just stockpiled on this one dude or one girl in your office, it doesn't work. They just end up doing a really mediocre job at all three of them. And they end up getting upset because it's way too much work.
Welcome to Stream, a trucktractortrailer.com production. My name is Zach Miller. I'm your host, and I'm honored to be joined today by Nick Dangles, who is the co-founder of Kinetic FT. We are going to continue our conversations about freight tech and some of these supply chain issues. Nick, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Zach. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is really it. This is the topic of the season. And, here we are, Nick and I are sitting here recording. The infrastructure package is on the verge of being signed. It should be signed Monday. The ports have gotten an immediate infusion and regulatory changes. But here we are, Nick. We talk about it. We talk about freight tech. We're going to talk about what you guys are working on in Kinetic. But it's just like, people have got to change their way of thinking here in freight and logistics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I obviously agree, right? I've got a consulting company that works exclusively, predominantly with freight tech companies. So you're preaching to the choir on that. There's one of the underlying reasons why we started Kinetic was the fact that there are these certain problems in the industry, and our overarching goal is to just educate the industry on the fact that they exist and there's technology around that can really help you out.
See, this is what I really like about what you guys are doing with Kinetic, because I think a lot of the conversation about what needs to change is you talk about things like, all right, well, there's vehicle safety, there's driver enhancement improvements. How do we get more drivers? How do we get more people to operate cranes and things like that? But really, a lot of these bottlenecks are happening on different sort of scales. Where you guys, you're focusing on it's sales, marketing, customer success, right?
Yeah. So we're basically consulting for freight tech companies, and we work with them in predominantly, like you said, sales, marketing, and customer success.
And that right there, I think those are things that people need to be improving on in the freight sector, and they're not. I don't know if they consider it low-hanging fruit. I don't know if they don't even realize they need to be focusing on them. But if companies can improve those aspects, I think we'll start to see some of these bottlenecks move a little bit smoother.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it gets into the issue of just tech adoption, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of where those three categories come into play. I mean, there's all of this cool tech out there. I mean, there are people doing genuinely amazing things. The problem a lot of times is actually getting it out into the world and getting companies to one, buy it, and then two, actually use it, because those are different, right? I mean, a big part of our audience is brokers, and you can sell a broker all the tech in the world, or you can, I guess. But getting individual users to actually use this new technology that you brought in, I mean, it's a whole different battle. And the customer success piece it's often overlooked because you shovel it on to your sales guy, right? You're like, okay, I've got a sales guy. He's going to do sales and he's going to do customer success and he's going to do some marketing too. Well, those are three very distinct roles. And they're also and all three of them are very important. So to have them just stockpiled on this one dude or one girl in your office, it doesn't work. They just end up doing a really mediocre job at all three of them. And they end up getting upset because it's way too much work.
Incredibly frustrating. And even then, I mean, don't want to stereotype too much, but that person you're talking about is usually pretty much they're fresh out of college, or maybe they're fresh out of the military, but they're young and they're not quite as experienced in the job, the one job that they need to do, and then here you go, here are three full-time jobs that you're throwing on this really young person.
Yeah. And like, even if they're not, even if they are experienced, a lot of times their experience isn't in freight. So
Mm,
it makes it that much more of an uphill battle for them. I mean, if you've been selling, a lot of tech companies run into the dilemma of, well, do we hire somebody with freight experience for this role, or do we hire somebody with like SaaS sales experience? And they're both important. You know, you need to
yeah.
know how to do both of those. But if you go the technology route and you hire somebody with a lot of tech experience, well, they have a really tough time relating what they're selling to people on the other side because they've never done it before. Like, they don't know anything about the industry. They haven't lived it. Um, so like, being able to educate people on that, like, that's a huge portion of it.
No, definitely, definitely. I feel like I feel like brokers, especially, if there's an industry that really needs to sort of level up here, it's got to be the brokers.
Yeah, and you know, I think that they've actually been doing a really good job of that over the past several years, or some have at least. Because if you look at some of the technologies starting to enter the area, I mean, you've got like Uber Freight and Convoy and JB Hunt all doing like innovative things. And brokers have really found that it's funny. I'm watching the Freightwaves event, and Peter from Carrier Direct and Craig from Freightwaves both kind of went off on this, started talking about this. The brokers who are really doing well and succeeding are the ones who are finding ways to kind of marry technology and more traditional way of doing things.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Do you think then that this will spur more and more to do it, or do you think there's still that sort of divide of no, 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 the way I do it is fine. We're booking enough loads. We're okay. Or or like more people starting to see the light, so to speak.
You know, that's a really good question. In terms of whether or not more people are seeing the light, I would say yes. You know, I'm kind of an inherently optimistic person. I like to think the answer is yes. But at the same time, I do have conversations every week, like the one you just described. You know, you're talking to a broker and he just says, yeah, man, like, the market's great right now. I'm making 20% margins. I'm making money hand over fist. I don't need this fancy new technology. And like, I understand where they're coming from on that kind of stuff, but I'm also a big believer that, like, current market aside, margin compression is a real thing. I feel like the days of being able to operate at 20% margin are probably slowly going away. So over the next several years, the companies who are going to be able to succeed and the companies who are going to be able to subsist on lower margins or just make more money with existing margins are the ones who do onboard that new technology to cut down their costs to serve and to just make everything more efficient within their company.
See, that's exactly it. And that's another thing. It's like, yes, so many are doing well right now because of where the market is and what the market's looking like. So this is the time to invest in the future. This is the time to take some of that profit to set yourself up for continued success, throughout the decade and beyond. Why are you just looking at it as, oh, well, this is going to be a great year, so I'm happy? It's like, what kind of business strategy is that?
Yeah, you're almost stealing some of my talking points. I totally agree with that. You know, the companies that do well are the ones who kind of think more long term. It's not just, hey, things are great right now. You know, like, let's make as much money as we possibly can and then figure it out in a couple of years. The companies who do well are the ones who realize that, the market's going to shift again.
Mhm.
It's not always going to be like this. So now is the time to really develop the carrier base, to invest in new technology, do things that are going to set us up for success in the future.
It really is so funny because so much of transportation and logistics, so much of them are, kind of like family owned and operated, or even then people get into it because they had family who is into it. So it's like you would think there'd be a little bit more forward thinking applications here, but it's still so analog and still so, for lack of a better term, old school. I think this is the pain point that people in freight tech have right now. It's just like getting these people to adapt to the digital world that we live in and away from their, old school analog ways.
Yeah, and the problem becomes, how do you get that message across?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because again, like, I hate calling transportation people stuck in their ways, but like, in some respects they are. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of companies out there who are doing innovative things, jumping on board technology, and like, they're really tough problems to solve. But at the same time, for every company jumping on board, you've got like 30 more who are still using their notepads and their Excel spreadsheets, and they're cool with it, right? Like that's the hurdle. It's convincing people that, like, not only does this technology exist, it's something that you should actually use, and you're going to be better because of it.
Yeah, seriously, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you're preaching to the choir here, but it's so true, and we got to get more people on board. If somebody wants a demo for Kinetic services, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn, probably more than I like to admit. So feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn, or reach out via email. It's just nick@poweredbykinetic.com.
Perfect. Outstanding. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. Keep up the good work, and please let's get more of these people on board in the supply chain and in the industry, so we could really set ourselves up for a much better future.
Yeah, no, thanks again, Zach. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. You guys like what you see? Please be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on stream.